Welcome to Today in the News of Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Ogunshakin. Let's move straight to the front pages of the dailies. I'm starting with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with NLC TUC start nationwide indefinite strike October 3rd. Saying no meaningful dialogue with government, urge Nigerians to stockpile food, items, other necessities. Direct state councils affiliate to step up mobilization. You can see that story on page 5. And on page 9, we didn't mandate anyone to negotiate with bandits, according to defense ministers. Government should police students adopt one. Live well, be happy. Death calls on us daily. Reflections on the human flourishing in Nigeria. You can see that on page 15. We are committed to fighting illicit drugs, as can be from Tinubu. Insecurity. Federal government boosts army operations with attack helicopters. And here we have a statement from Afe Babalola, but you can read more of that on page 22. It's talking on Nigeria restructure or reconfigure. On sport, AFCON 2025 to 2027 host nations, Nigeria, Benin in forefront. You can see that on page 29. Stories above on page 19. Reduce fiscal deficit by 3% of GDP. IMF charges Nigeria and others. National security remains precarious amid numerous successes. That's according to Speaker Abbas. NGE commends Southeast Governors on Security Initiative. And lastly, on Vanguard newspaper, Senate clears Cardoso for others as CBN Governor and Deputy Governor. You can see the stories on pages 8, 6, and 4 of Vanguard newspaper. Now the Punch newspaper, and we have indefinite strike. OPS kicks as Labour vows to shut down airport others Tuesday. And the riders accompany that says federal government Labour leaders meeting Tuesday. Tinubu to unveil workers package October 1. Man others one of massive economic losses. Government foot dragging on workers' demand. That's coming from NLC. And Hida Molud, pray for Nigeria, Tinubu tells Muslims. You can see these stories on pages 2 and 26. Landlord baits 11-year-old with hot water. INEC conveys Edo Post timetable. You can see that on page 7. And lastly, on the front newspaper above, Cardoso to clear dollar debt, suspend intervention loans. Senate confirms new CBN governor, deputies, and anchor borrowers program. Agri schemes may be terminated. You can see that on page 11. Lastly, the nation. Nation is leading with how I will tackle inflation, Naira, forest crisis by Cardoso. CBN governor, transparency compliance to rules will be upheld. You can see that on page 2. And on the page 4, OPS speaker, others oppose labor strike call. NLC TUC fixed October 3rd for indefinite strike. INEC fixes a date for Ondo governorship election. You can see that story on page 2. And stories above, Obaseki asks Shaibu to drop governorship ambition. Tinubu okays purchase of 12 attack helicopters. You can see that on page 6. And lastly, on the Nation newspaper, we have how Abiodun is driving FDI through OGFTZ. You can see that on page 27 of the Nation newspaper. And that's all we have on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Join us after the break for the analysis. Welcome back to the just joining me. This is Today the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Ogunshakin. Joining me this morning is Mr. Gbero Olajuigbe. He's the Executive Director of Emergency and Risk Alert. Good morning, Mr. Gbero.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being with you.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Let's go straight to the papers this morning. NLC, Nigeria Labour Congress, and Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, TUC, as they declare indefinite strike starting from October 3rd. That's to force the federal government to address excruciating suffering and hardship across the country occasioned by the removal of fuel subsidy. What's your take on this strike? Because they're going ahead with the strike despite some of the government officials pleading with this union.
Labour has no reason. They have lost every capacity to mobilize people for any strike because of the epileptic nature and the inconsistent nature of their calling for strike. So mobilization of people, even workers, have become so difficult. And the government knows this, that nothing is coming out of their strike. And this is because they have been feeble in their own principle. They are not committed to any principle. So what we have been seeing is politics of strike that is not going to end this agony that has been unleashed on the people by the Tinubu administration. Tinubu knew when he was announcing on 29 May that there will be consequences in terms of impact, negative impact of removal of subsidy on the people. So why didn't he plan? Why did he rush to remove it when he had no plan on the ground to respond to the fallout and the negative impact of that removal? And Labour pretended to have a position at the initial stage, but we have found out now that Labour is just playing politics of with the so-called strike. People should look at what can help them. The salvation of Nigerian people is not in the hands of Labour. So people should continue to put pressure on government, particularly the federal government, to change that economic policy. And when Labour leads, is going to lead to disappointment. They have deflated people's interest in terms of campaigning, mobilizing and campaigning against the obnoxious policy of fuel subsidy removal. So I don't know how they are going to do that. They call it indefinite strike. People are going through a lot of horror, hunger, starvation, capacity, demobilization. In the sense they can't even move from one place to the other because of all cost of transportation. Not even to go and take out daily living. So life is extremely difficult for Nigeria and it's becoming extremely violent. For example, my office was attacked and robbed and very consequential items, materials were removed and the building damage and everything. Those are the fallout of this poverty that has been unleashed on the people of Nigeria. So it will get everywhere if nothing is done to ameliorate the suffering of the people. And Labour has lost every stand to lead that war against impoverization of the Nigerian people. They have dilly-dally on it. They don't have peace policy. The action has shown that they have big engagement of the policy from the beginning. The policy should have been rejected the moment it was declared by the president on May 29. And nothing was done. We allow it to fester till this time when everybody is groaning differently, suffering differently, and of course, collectively lamenting without taking any action.
Mr. Guerrero, but do you think they should go ahead with this strike? Because you said that the strike is not anything. Do you think they should go ahead with it? I mean, this is not the first time they are declaring a strike and their strike is being cancelled before.
This will be the fourth time. The fourth time Labour is talking on strike within the same policy, and nothing has come out of it. They are not committed to any strike. That is what I'm telling you. Nigerians have lost hope in the capacity of trade union leadership to lead them out of Egypt. That is what even workers. They have failed workers. They have failed themselves. They have failed leadership. And if they like, let them go ahead. I don't know what will become of it. Because it is strike that is coming too late. It is strike that is becoming too political. That is not conscious of economic consequences of this obnoxious policy on people of Nigeria, particularly the poor and the working class. So, I don't know how they are going to mobilize people. They have described it. We will continue to watch them from afar because I'm not going to partake in it anyway.
Talking about the economy, the new governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria Olayemi Cardoso has said he will prioritize clearing the Apex Bank backlog of unsettled foreign exchange obligations in the near term. But what do you think about the new CBN governor? Do you think he'll be able to handle the current economic situation in the country, and what is the politics going on in CBN?
Well, after Chief, that Obasanjo first bank CBN governor, Sanusi. I'm not talking of the one that became Emir. There was one Sanusi that was central bank governor, I think after Soludo or before Soludo. He was the last central bank governor that I can trust. Others after him, I have no trust in them. Emefiele made mouth even in 2014 when he was appointed by Jonathan. So there is no central bank. All of them are, even their policy, the monetary policy, have always been selfish, motivated by ulterior motive. Even the so-called consolidation of Sanusi the Emir, who became the central bank governor, who became Emir, they were infused with self-motive, motive to fight some people the then commercial banks and other things. So their motives have never been pure. And of course, if you look at the tragic performance of Emefiele, how it has decimated our money and everything, under the cover of claiming that central bank is independent of any supervision. So you can just, they can do anything they like. Sanusi, the former central bank governor, I'm talking the one that became Emir, not the other Sanusi. So he was just returning Nigeria, donating money under the guise that he has he could, as central bank governor, he could fund anything. He could decide to donate money to university to build anything without recourse to oversight. Nobody was reviewing what he was doing. And the same thing happened under Emefiele. Of course, we are bearing the consequences of his action. So Cardoso, well, he has not started, but I can't continue with by praising him. I don't trust any of them. So I'm going to take all his word with cautious, is it optimism I will even use or pessimism? So I don't know how to trust any Nigerian central bank governors. They always have ulterior motive to enrich themselves at the expense of national growth and national development, at the expense of good and contextually made monetary policies. So whatever he say now, as far as I'm concerned, that is campaign. Until he starts doing it, I will see the impact on our both monetary and fiscal environment.
Lastly, let's quickly look at this one. The federal government yesterday said it didn't mandate anyone to negotiate with bandits on its behalf. And that's because the governor of Zamfara State, Dauda Lawal, he had in a statement by a spokesman alleged on Thursday that some federal agencies were secretly negotiating with bandits terrorizing the state without his knowledge.
Well, that is the problem with this approach to combat this bandit and the terrorists that we have in the country. There is no clear strategy by the government, federal and state, fighting over. I'm talking of government to government, national government and subnational government that have very serious, delicate, and existential problem that they should collectively tackle together. I buy carrying over who is ordering who, creating room for anonymity, creating room for inaccountability, creating room for the fact that to show people that they are not transparent about anything. Okay, is it the author that ordered them to do that if the federal government didn't? Where did the state government get information that the federal government ordered the negotiation. So this is the problem with Nigerian crisis. Nobody is governing anywhere. That is the issue. Everyone is just doing what they like. There is no common, integrated, strategic focus in fighting and winning the terror war. That is what that is clearly telling you. Do you know that the life of nearly 2 months now, 8 coppers have been kidnapped and nobody is talking of getting them out? How are you going to get them out? I think both the state and the federal should be on the same page. Even up to the community. The population has a threat. They don't know what to do. Most of them are now taking refuge under the bandits. I learned, of course, the government said it the other day. They have decided to be paying tax to bandits so that they won't be invaded. Many communities, particularly in Zamfara, and we have a government in place, both at the state level and at the federal level. The coppers have not been rescued. Thank God that some of the students kidnapped about 4 days ago at the Federal University, Gusau, have been, some of them have been rescued. And this is what is going on across the country. And we can't find solution to that. Rather, we are compounding the problem by further impoverishing the people, which ab initio was the cause of these terror gangs that we have. Because most of them are just fighting back against society that has rejected them, that has impoverished them, that has made them to be absolutely useless to themselves and to the people. Because they are almost irredeemably impoverished. And the continued impoverization of these policies that we just spoke on, we worsen the situation of violence, we worsen the situation of crime and criminality and conflict in Nigeria, particularly at the grassroots. And these are dangerous tools from which terrorists are drawn from.
You talked about the NYSC members that were kidnapped. Do you think at this rate NYSC compulsory for Nigerian graduates?
I have advocated is cancellation. It's no longer serving the purpose. We are just subjecting these young people to unreasonable agony. Fear, there is intrusion of fear everywhere. It's just like, of course, for that 1 year, as a parent, your mind will be something else. Will be your heart will be in your mouth because of the environment where your word is serving. The context can change at any time. You don't know what to do. Do we need to be endangering the life of our children because they want to serve their nation? And what manner of service are they even doing in the first place? NYC should be reviewed. People should not travel far away from their parents. Also that the government has shown incapacitation in terms of responsibility to protect. So if you cannot discharge your responsibility to protect, so you don't unnecessarily subject people to unacceptable risk.
Let's end this on a lighter note with Mr. and Mrs. this morning. And the first person speaking this morning is Mrs. Mrs. says, I am sorry, dear. I mistakenly broke the rear lamp of the SUV. And Mr. replied, oh no, another breaking news.
Well, it's a real breaking news. Why should break? I think if you break something, everything is the same. Equality at home. You should please them now. What he's saying is not that he's complaining. He's telling the husband to go and fix it. That is just the reality of our marriage. And it's lovely anyway. But then the fact is that if anything is broken today, no matter how painful that thing is, let us not break the home.
Yes, that's the truth. Thank you, Mr. Agbero, for joining me this morning.
It's a pleasure being with you.
And he just reviewed and analyzed some of the stories with us this morning. Now, to get more of our top stories, you can follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Our WhatsApp number is also displayed on your screen. Happy Eid al-Maulud to our Muslim viewers. My name is Damlola Okunshakin. Have a lovely